The string bean in Zelda's hand snapped clean through when she saw the man bleeding in her doorway, his horse whinnying in distress behind him as the August heat of 1878 shimmered over Shoshone City, Idaho Territory. She dropped the half-strung beans onto the wooden porch and rushed forward as the stranger collapsed against the doorframe. His hand pressed tight against his side where crimson seeped through his fingers. His hat tumbled off to reveal dark hair matted with sweat, and when his eyes met hers, they were the color of storm clouds before rain. "Please," he managed through gritted teeth. "They are coming." Zelda did not hesitate. At 23 years old, she had learned that survival in the territory meant acting first and asking questions later. She grabbed his arm and hauled him inside with strength built from years of farm work, then slammed the door shut behind them. The man was tall and solid, making it difficult to maneuver him, but she managed to get him to the wooden chair by her table. "Who is coming?" she demanded, already moving toward the cupboard where she kept her medical supplies. Her father had been a doctor before he died 2 years ago, and she had inherited both his knowledge and his instruments. "Dalton gang," the stranger said, wincing as he pressed harder against his wound. "They robbed the bank in Silver City. I tried to stop them." Zelda's hand stilled for just a moment. The Dalton gang had been terrorizing the territory for months, leaving bodies in their wake. She grabbed the whiskey from the top shelf along with clean bandages and returned to the stranger's side. "Let me see," she said firmly. He hesitated, then slowly moved his hand away. The bullet had grazed his side, cutting a deep furrow through the flesh but missing anything vital. Lucky man. She poured whiskey directly into the wound without warning, and he jerked, letting out a harsh breath but making no other sound of pain. "You have got backbone," she said, impressed despite herself. She began cleaning the wound with practiced efficiency. "What is your name?" "Owen Saunders," he said through clenched teeth. "I am a deputy out of Silver City." "Long way from home, Deputy Saunders. Call me Owen." "And yes, well, I followed them here, lost them about 5 miles back when they split up." He watched her work with sharp eyes. "You know what you are doing." "My father was a doctor. I am Zelda Morton, and this is my property." She began wrapping the bandage around his torso, her hands steady. "How many are there?" "4 left. I got one back in Silver City." He caught her wrist suddenly, his grip gentle but insistent. "You need to leave. If they circle back and find me here, they will not care that you are just helping a wounded man. These are not men who show mercy." Zelda met his eyes steadily. "This is my home. My father built this house with his own hands, and I will not abandon it because some outlaws might ride through. Besides, where would I go? The nearest neighbor is 3 miles off, and you are in no condition to ride." A sound outside made them both freeze. Hoofbeats, multiple horses coming closer. Owen tried to stand, but Zelda pushed him back down with surprising strength. "Stay here. Do not make a sound." She grabbed her father's old rifle from above the fireplace, checked that it was loaded, and moved to the window. Through the gap in the curtains, she could see 4 riders approaching slowly, their eyes scanning the property. They looked exactly like what they were, dangerous men with nothing to lose. Her heart hammered against her ribs, but her hands remained steady on the rifle. The riders paused at the edge of her property line, looking at Owen's horse tied near the porch. One of them, a man with a scar running down his cheek, dismounted and started walking toward the house. "Anyone home?" he called out, his voice carrying a false friendliness that made her skin crawl. "We are just passing through looking for a friend of ours. He might be hurt." Zelda glanced back at Owen, who had drawn his pistol despite his injury. He shook his head urgently, clearly telling her not to answer. But she knew these men. If they thought the house was occupied and someone was hiding something, they would simply burn it down or shoot their way in. She set the rifle within easy reach but out of immediate sight, smoothed her dress, and opened the door just wide enough to step out onto the porch. The late afternoon sun was brutal, and she used her hand to shade her eyes as she looked at the riders. "Can I help you, gentlemen?" she asked, keeping her voice level and calm. The scarred man smiled, revealing missing teeth. "Well now, that is mighty hospitable of you, miss. Like I said, we are looking for a man, probably wounded. You seen anyone like that riding through?" "I have been stringing beans all afternoon," Zelda said, gesturing to the pile of beans and string still scattered on her porch from when she had dropped them. "Have not seen anyone. This is not exactly a well-traveled road." The man's eyes narrowed as he studied her, then looked past her at the door. "You live here alone?" "My husband is in town on business," she lied smoothly. "He will be back before supper." "That's so." The man took a step closer, and Zelda fought the urge to step back. "Because I do not see signs of a man living here. No tobacco on your porch, no work boots by the door. We have been married only a month. He has not moved all his things in yet." Zelda kept her expression neutral. "Now, if you will excuse me, I need to finish my work before dark." The scarred man studied her for a long moment, then looked back at his companions. One of them, a younger man with cruel eyes, spoke up. "That horse there looks familiar, Jack." Zelda followed his gaze to Owen's horse, and her stomach dropped. She had been so focused on getting Owen inside that she had not thought about hiding his mount. "That is my husband's horse," she said quickly. "He left it here and took the wagon to town. Needed to haul supplies." Jack, the scarred man, walked over to the horse and examined it. He ran his hand along the saddle, then looked at the ground. Even from the porch, Zelda could see the drops of blood leading from the horse to her door. "Your husband hurt himself?" Jack asked, his voice gone hard. "Cut his hand fixing the fence this morning. He is clumsy sometimes." Zelda's mind raced. If they decided to search the house, Owen was in no condition to fight for men, and she would be lucky to get off more than 1 or 2 shots before they overtook her. Jack walked back toward the porch, and this time Zelda did step back, her hand sliding toward where she had left the rifle just inside the door. The man's eyes followed the movement and his smile widened. "You seem mighty nervous for someone who is just stringing beans, miss." Before Zelda could respond, the sound of wagon wheels and horses came from the road. A group of riders appeared, 7 or 8 men, and at their head was Sheriff Thomas Garrett from Shoshone City. Zelda had never been so relieved to see the lawman in her life. "Afternoon, Miss Morton," Sheriff Garrett called out, his hand resting casually on his pistol as his eyes took in the scene. "Everything all right here?" "Just fine, Sheriff," Zelda said quickly. "These men were asking for directions." Sheriff Garrett looked at Jack and his companions, and something passed between the lawmen and the outlaws, a recognition of what they were to each other. "Dalton gang," the sheriff said flatly. "We got word you might be headed this way. You are a long way from Silver City." Jack's hand moved toward his gun, but he was outnumbered and he knew it. "We are just passing through, Sheriff. No need for trouble." "I think there is plenty of need," Sheriff Garrett said. "You boys are wanted for bank robbery and murder. I would appreciate it if you would unbuckle those gun belts nice and slow." For a moment, Zelda thought they were going to try to shoot their way out. The tension stretched tight as a wire, and then Jack laughed, a bitter sound. "Not today, Sheriff, but there will be another time." He mounted his horse in one smooth motion and spurred it forward, his companions following. They rode hard to the east, and Sheriff Garrett let them go, his men's rifles trained on the outlaws until they disappeared into the hills. The sheriff dismounted and walked up to Zelda's porch. "You all right, Miss Morton? "I am fine, Sheriff. Thank you for your timing. Got a telegram from Silver City about a wounded deputy chasing the gang. I figured they might pass through here, and I remembered your place was on this route." He looked at the blood drops on the ground. "That deputy in your house," Zelda hesitated, then nodded. "He is hurt but will live. I patched him up." "Mind if I come in and check on him?" She led the sheriff inside, where Owen was still sitting in the chair, his pistol now holstered. He looked pale but steady. "Deputy Saunders," Sheriff Garrett said with a nod, "you are either very brave or very stupid, chasing 4 armed outlaws alone." "Probably a bit of both," Owen admitted. "Thank you for the assist, Sheriff. Thank Miss Morton here. She is the one who kept you alive." The sheriff turned to Zelda. "That was quick thinking. Lying about the horse probably saved both your lives." After Sheriff Garrett and his men left with promises to patrol the area, Zelda found herself alone with Owen again. The adrenaline was fading, leaving her hands shaking as she returned to cleaning up the medical supplies. "Thank you," Owen said quietly. "What you did out there, lying to those men, that took courage or foolishness like you said." Zelda kept her hands busy. "They would have killed you. They would have killed us both." She could not argue with that. Instead, she moved to the stove and began preparing food, needing something to do with her hands. Owen watched her work, and she was intensely aware of his gaze. "You should rest," she said without turning around. "That wound needs time to heal. I cannot impose on you any longer. I should get back to Silver City. In your condition, you would fall off your horse before you got 10 miles. She ladled stew into 2 bowls and brought them to the table. "You will stay here tonight, and in the morning we will see how you feel." They ate in silence for a while, and then Owen said, "You really are alone out here? No husband?" "No, that was a lie, as you know." Zelda met his eyes. "My father died 2 years ago. Left me this property and enough money to get by if I am careful. I grow what I need, sell eggs and vegetables in town, and do some doctoring when people need it. That is a hard life for a woman alone. It is a hard life for anyone, but it is mine, and I will not give it up." There was steel in her voice. "I have had 3 men from town try to court me this past year, and every one of them made it clear they expected me to sell this property and move into town to be a proper wife. I sent them all packing." Owen smiled slightly, the first real smile she had seen from him. It transformed his face, softening the hard edges. "Something tells me you would not make a proper wife by anyone's standards." "Is that an insult or a compliment?" "A compliment, definitely a compliment." They finished eating as the sun set, painting the sky in shades of orange and red. Zelda set Owen up in her father's old room, which she had kept clean but unused. She gave him one of her father's nightshirts and strict instructions to call her if he needed anything during the night. In her own room, she lay awake for a long time, listening to the sounds of the house. It had been 2 years since another person had stayed under this roof, and she found the presence both comforting and unsettling. Owen Saunders was a stranger, yet he had already seen her in a moment of crisis, had trusted her with his life. There was an intimacy in that, whether she wanted to acknowledge it or not. When morning came, she found Owen already awake and sitting at her kitchen table. He had made coffee, and the smell filled the small house. "You should not be up," she said, but took the cup he offered her. "I feel better." "You do good work." He touched his bandaged side gently. "But you are right that I am not ready to ride all the way back to Silver City. If you would allow me, I would like to stay 1 more day. I can pay you for your trouble." "I do not want your money." Zelda sat down across from him. "But if you are staying, you can help me finish stringing those beans. I have 2 bushels to get through." So they spent the morning on her porch, Zelda showing Owen how to string the beans properly for drying. His hands were large and calloused. The hands of a man used to hard work, but he was clumsy with the delicate process of threading beans onto string. "You are terrible at this," Zelda said, trying not to laugh as another bean split under his fingers. "I am a deputy, not a farmer," Owen protested, but he was smiling too. "Give me a gun or a horse and I am fine, but domestic work is beyond me. And yet you made decent coffee this morning. That is different. Coffee is essential to survival." They worked in comfortable silence, punctuated by easy conversation. Owen told her about growing up in Ohio, about how he had come west 5 years ago looking for adventure and had ended up in Silver City. He spoke of the work he did, the satisfaction of bringing justice to a lawless land, but also the weariness that came with it. Zelda found herself telling him things she had not spoken of in years. About her mother who had died when she was 12, about her father's dedication to healing people even when they could not pay, about the loneliness of the past 2 years, but also the fierce independence she had discovered in herself. "You could go back east," Owen said. "A woman with your skills, your education, you could have an easier life in a city." "I could," Zelda agreed, "but I do not want easy. I want a life that is mine, where I make the decisions and live with the consequences. Out here, I am not just someone's daughter or sister or wife. I am Zelda Morton, and that is enough." Owen looked at her with something like wonder in his eyes. "You are remarkable, you know that." She felt heat rise to her cheeks and bent her head over the beans to hide it. "I am just practical." "No, you are more than that. Most people I know spend their lives running from who they are or trying to be someone else. You know exactly who you are and you are not apologizing for it." The moment stretched between them, filled with unspoken things. Then Owen winced and touched his side, and Zelda immediately shifted into her practical mode. "That is enough work for you today. Inside, let me check that wound." She redressed his injury, satisfied to see it was healing cleanly. But as she wrapped fresh bandages around his torso, she was acutely aware of the warmth of his skin, the solid strength of him. When she looked up, she found him watching her with an intensity that made her breath catch. "Zelda," he said softly. She stepped back quickly. "You should rest." "I have work to do in the garden." She fled outside, her heart pounding. This was foolish, she told herself. Owen was a wounded man she had helped, nothing more. He would leave tomorrow or the next day, return to Silver City, and she would go back to her solitary life. That was how it should be. But as the day wore on and she worked in her garden, she kept glancing back at the house, wondering what Owen was doing, if he needed anything. When she came back inside in the late afternoon, she found him at her kitchen table with her father's medical books spread out before him. "I hope you do not mind," he said. "I saw them on the shelf and was curious. Your father must have been well educated. He studied in Boston before coming west. He said he wanted to help people who had no one else." Zelda washed her hands in the basin and began preparing supper. "He was a good man, stubborn and idealistic, but good. You miss him." "Every day. But I am grateful for what he taught me, not just the medicine, but the way he saw people. He treated everyone the same, whether they were rich or poor, white or Indian. He said suffering did not discriminate, so neither should healing." Owen closed the book gently. "He sounds like someone I would have liked to know." They ate supper together, and afterwards Owen insisted on helping with the dishes despite Zelda's protests. They moved around her small kitchen in a dance that felt almost natural, as if they had done this 100 times before. "I should leave tomorrow," Owen said as he dried the last plate. "I have been gone from Silver City for 3 days now. My boss will be wondering. Your wound is healing well. You should be fine to ride." Zelda kept her voice neutral, but something in her chest tightened at the thought of him leaving. "Zelda, I want you to know these past 2 days, they have meant something to me. You have meant something to me." She turned to face him, her hands still in the dishwater. "Owen, do not say things you do not mean." "I have never meant anything more." He took a step closer. "I know this is sudden and maybe it is crazy, but I feel like I have known you longer than 2 days, like I have been looking for you without knowing it. You do not know me, not really. Then let me know you. Let me come back here, court you properly, see where this goes." Zelda's heart was racing. Part of her wanted to say yes to take this chance. But the practical part of her, the part that had kept her safe and independent these past 2 years, held her back. "I have a life here, Owen, a life I built for myself. I will not give that up for any man." "I am not asking you to give it up. I am asking if I can be part of it." Before she could respond, a sound outside made them both freeze. Hoofbeats, moving fast. Owen's hand went to his gun as he moved to the window. Zelda right behind him. A single rider was approaching, pushing his horse hard. As he got closer, Zelda recognized him as Deputy Collins from Shoshone City. Owen was already opening the door when Collins pulled up in a spray of dust. "Deputy Saunders, Miss Morton, thank God you are both here." Collins was breathing hard. "The Dalton gang hit another farm about 8 miles from here. Killed the farmer and his oldest son, took everything they had. Sheriff Garrett is gathering men, but he wants you to know they are still in the area." Owen's face had gone hard. "When did this happen?" "Few hours ago. Sheriff thinks they are heading for the border, but they are going to need supplies. Your place might be a target, Miss Morton. Sheriff wants you to come into town where you will be safe." "I am not leaving my home," Zelda said immediately. "Miss Morton, these men are dangerous." "I know exactly how dangerous they are. I faced them down 2 days ago." She looked at Owen. "You should go with Deputy Collins." "Help the sheriff." Owen shook his head firmly. "I am not leaving you here alone, not with those men in the area. Owen, this is your job. People are depending on you. And you are not people, you are." He stopped, then continued, "You are important to me. I will not risk you." Deputy Collins looked between them, clearly seeing something in their interaction. "Maybe you both should come to town. Or maybe I should stay here and help defend Miss Morton's property," Owen said. "She has supplies, medical knowledge. If there are wounded when you catch the gang, you will need her." Collins considered this, then nodded. "I will tell the sheriff. He is organizing patrols. We will have men riding this area all night. If you see anything, fire 3 shots and we will come running." After Collins left, Zelda turned to Owen. "You should have gone with him and left you here alone, not a chance." He was already checking his gun, making sure it was loaded. "Do you have more ammunition in the cabinet there?" "Owen, I can take care of myself." "I know you can. But you do not have to, not tonight." He looked at her steadily. "Let me do this, Zelda. Let me protect you." They prepared the house for a possible attack, barricading the windows, setting loaded rifles at strategic points. As night fell, they took turns keeping watch, one sleeping while the other stayed alert. Around midnight, Owen woke Zelda from a fitful sleep. "I hear something," he whispered. They moved to the window together, and in the moonlight Zelda could see shapes moving in the distance. 3 riders, maybe 4, approaching slowly. "Could be the sheriff's patrol," Zelda whispered. "Could be, but I do not want to take that chance." Owen raised his rifle. "If they get within 50 yards of the house, we warn them off. If they keep coming, we shoot." The riders came closer, and then one of them called out, "Hello, the house. We are looking for water for our horses. Willing to pay." It was Jack, the scarred man from the Dalton gang. Owen looked at Zelda. "Fire the signal shots or wait for them to leave." "If we fire now, it tells them someone is here worth attacking. If we stay quiet, they might move on." They waited in tense silence as the riders stopped at the edge of the property. One dismounted and started walking toward the house, and Zelda recognized him as the young one with cruel eyes. "I know someone is in there," the young man called. "We saw you preparing, might as well come out peaceful-like." Owen sighted down his rifle. "On my count, fire the signal shots and then get down. We are about to have a fight." But before he could count, gunfire erupted from the darkness to the north. Sheriff Garrett and his men came riding in hard, and the Dalton gang scattered. Shots rang out in the night, and Zelda could only watch through the window as the battle unfolded. It was over in minutes. Two of the outlaws lay dead, including Jack with the scar. The young cruel one was wounded and captured, and the fourth escaped into the night. Sheriff Garrett came to the house afterwards, looking tired but satisfied. "We have been tracking them all day. Figured they might try your place again, Miss Morton, so we set up an ambush. Sorry we could not warn you, but we needed to catch them in the act." "Just glad you got here when you did," Owen said. After the sheriff left with his prisoner and the bodies, Zelda and Owen stood on the porch in the pre-dawn darkness. The adrenaline was fading, leaving them both shaky. "It is over," Zelda said softly. "The Dalton gang is finished. This chapter anyway. There will always be another gang, another outlaw." Owen turned to her. "But right now, I do not want to think about that. Right now, I just want to think about you. Owen." "I love you, Zelda. I know that is crazy. I have known you for 3 days, but I love you. The way you stood up to those outlaws, the way you saved my life, the way you string beans on your porch and are not afraid of anything. I love all of it, and I want to spend my life getting to know all the parts I have not discovered yet." Zelda felt tears prick her eyes. "You cannot love me. You do not know what you are saying." "I know exactly what I am saying, and I think you feel it too, even if you are too scared to admit it." She turned away from him, looking out at the land her father had left her, the life she had built alone. "I am scared," she admitted. "I am scared of losing myself, of becoming just someone's wife instead of Zelda Morton." Owen moved to stand beside her, not touching but close enough that she could feel his warmth. "What if you could be both? What if you could be Zelda Morton, who is also Owen Saunders' wife, and those things did not have to be in conflict?" "I do not know if that is possible." "Let me show you it is. Let me court you properly. I will ride out here every weekend, help you with your work, get to know you. And if at the end of it you do not love me back, I will walk away. But give me a chance, Zelda. Give us a chance." She looked at him then, at this man who had stumbled bleeding into her life and somehow changed everything. In the growing light of dawn, she could see the hope and fear in his eyes, the same emotions she felt. "All right," she whispered. "You can court me, but I am not promising anything." His smile was like sunrise. "That is all I ask." Owen left later that morning, riding back to Silver City with promises to return the following Saturday. Zelda watched him go, her heart a confused tangle of hope and fear. She threw herself into her work, tending her garden, caring for her chickens, finishing the bean stringing she had started what felt like a lifetime ago. When Saturday came, she found herself watching the road, telling herself she did not care if Owen came or not, knowing she was lying. He arrived in the late morning, riding up with a smile on his face and a bouquet of wildflowers in his hand. "For you," he said, dismounting. "I picked them along the road. They reminded me of you, beautiful and wild." Zelda took the flowers, unused to such gestures. "Thank you, they are lovely." They spent the day working together on her property. Owen proved surprisingly handy with repairs, fixing the sagging fence line and patching a leak in the roof. Zelda made them lunch and they ate on her porch, talking about everything and nothing. "Tell me about Silver City," Zelda said. "What is it like there? Busy? Lots of mining, lots of people coming through looking to strike it rich. The town has grown a lot in the past few years." Owen leaned back in his chair. "It is a good town, but it is not home. Not like this place is home for you." Have you ever had a place that felt like home? Not since I left Ohio, but I am starting to think home is not so much a place as a person. She looked at him, at the way the afternoon sun caught in his dark hair, the easy smile on his face, and felt something shift in her chest. The weeks passed in a rhythm. Owen came every Saturday, sometimes staying through Sunday if he could spare the time. They worked together on her property, and slowly Zelda found herself sharing more of herself with him. She told him about the lonely nights after her father died, about the men in town who saw her as a prize to be won rather than a person to be known, about her dreams of maybe opening a real doctor's office someday. Owen listened to everything, really listened, and he shared his own stories in turn. About the weight of his job, the satisfaction of helping people, but also the toll it took, about his own loneliness living in a boarding house in Silver City with no real connections. You ever regret coming west? Zelda asked one evening as they sat on her porch watching the sun set. Sometimes, but if I had not come, I would never have met you, so I guess it was worth it. She leaned her head against his shoulder, a gesture that had become natural over the past weeks. You are a charmer, Owen Saunders. Only with you. One Saturday in late September, Owen arrived with news. I talked to my boss about possibly transferring to Shoshone City. The town is big enough now that they are looking to hire another deputy. If I got the position, I would be only 5 miles from here instead of 30. Zelda's heart leaped. You would do that? I would do a lot more than that for you. He took her hands. Zelda, I know we have been taking this slow and I respect that, but I need you to know my intentions. I want to marry you. I want to build a life with you. And I am willing to do whatever it takes to make that happen in a way that does not require you to give up anything that matters to you. Owen. She squeezed his hands. I need to tell you something. I have been so scared of losing myself in marriage, of becoming just someone's wife, that I did not see what was right in front of me. You have never once asked me to be anything but who I am. You help with my work, you listen to my dreams, you treat me as an equal partner. And somewhere along the way I fell in love with you. You love me. His voice was rough with emotion. I love you. I am terrified and excited, and I have no idea how we are going to make this work, but yes, I love you. Owen pulled her into his arms and kissed her, and it was like coming home. When they finally broke apart, they were both breathless and smiling. Marry me, Owen said. Marry me and I will spend the rest of my life making sure you never regret it. Yes, Zelda whispered. Yes, I will marry you. They were married in November, a simple ceremony in Shoshone City with Sheriff Garrett and his wife as witnesses. Zelda wore a dress she had made herself, pale blue with white lace, and Owen wore his best suit. When the minister pronounced them husband and wife, Owen kissed her like it was a promise. Owen had indeed gotten the position as deputy in Shoshone City, and together they worked out a life that honored both their needs. He would work in town during the week, staying at the boarding house when necessary, but every evening he would ride out to Zelda's property, to their property now. On his days off, they worked together on the farm, and slowly Owen moved his possessions into the house. Zelda continued her work, tending the farm and offering medical care to those who needed it. Owen supported her completely, even helping her set up a small clinic in town where she could treat patients 2 days a week. It was not the traditional marriage that most people expected, but it worked for them. Their first winter together was cold and hard, but they weathered it together. Zelda taught Owen how to preserve food, how to manage the livestock through the lean months. Owen taught her to shoot better, to track, all the skills he had learned as a lawman. One night in January, as they lay together in the bed that had been her father's and was now theirs, Owen said, "Do you remember the day we met? When I collapsed in your doorway? How could I forget?" You bled all over my porch, he laughed softly. I was so scared, not of dying, but of not getting to really live first. And then you were there, fierce and capable, and I thought maybe I had found something worth living for. You saved me too, you know. I was so lonely, but I had convinced myself that was strength. You showed me that strength can also be letting someone in. We saved each other, Owen said, pulling her closer. In March, Zelda realized she was pregnant. The discovery filled her with joy and terror in equal measure. She told Owen one evening when he came home from work, unable to keep the news to herself any longer. I am going to have a baby, she said as soon as he walked in the door. Our baby. Sometime in the fall, I think. Owen's face went through a dozen emotions before landing on pure joy. He picked her up and spun her around, making her laugh and protest at the same time. We are going to have a baby, he kept saying, like he could not quite believe it. We are going to be parents. The pregnancy was not easy. Zelda was sick for the first few months and then tired beyond measure. But Owen was there through all of it, holding her hair when she was ill, taking over more of the farm work, treating her with such tenderness that sometimes she cried just from the overwhelming love she felt. I do not know if I am ready for this, she confessed one night in her 6th month, her hand on her swelling belly. I am scared I will not be a good mother. You are going to be an amazing mother, Owen said firmly. Look at how you care for everyone who comes to you for help. Look at how much love you have to give. Our child is lucky to have you. Our child is lucky to have us both, Zelda corrected. Their son was born in October, during the first cold snap of autumn. The labor was long and difficult, and there were moments when Zelda was terrified. But she had learned to deliver babies from her father's books and from experience, and with Owen's help and the assistance of the midwife from town, she brought their son into the world as the sun rose. They named him Oliver, after Owen's father, and from the moment Zelda held him, she understood a love deeper than anything she had imagined possible. Owen was a devoted father from the start. He would come home from work and immediately take Oliver, walking with him, talking to him, singing him songs in a surprisingly good voice. Watching them together made Zelda's heart feel too big for her chest. Life settled into a new rhythm. Zelda reduced her clinic days to focus on Oliver, but she still treated patients at home. Owen continued his work as deputy, but he made sure to be home as much as possible. They worked together to manage the farm and raise their son, and somehow it all worked. One afternoon in late spring, when Oliver was 7 months old and starting to crawl, Zelda was on the porch stringing beans again. It had been almost 2 years since the day Owen had stumbled into her life, and she found herself thinking about how much had changed. Owen came up behind her and wrapped his arms around her waist, careful not to disturb the baby sleeping in the basket at her feet. "What are you thinking about?" he asked. "About that first day, when I was stringing beans and you appeared bleeding and desperate. Best day of my life, even with the bullet wound." She turned in his arms to face him. "Do you ever regret it? This life we have built, it is not traditional, it is not what most people would choose. I regret nothing, absolutely nothing." He kissed her softly. "You are everything I did not know I needed, Zelda. You and Oliver, this life, this farm, it is not traditional, but it is ours, and it is perfect. Not perfect. I burned breakfast this morning, the fence needs fixing again, and Oliver kept us up half the night. Perfectly imperfect then, but still perfect to me." Zelda smiled and kissed him again. "You know what you said to me that first day when we were stringing beans together? I said a lot of things, most of them probably foolish. You said I was remarkable. I think you were wrong, though. I think we are remarkable together. Separately we were both incomplete, but together we are whole." Owen looked at her with such love that it took her breath away. "String your life with mine and never part," he said softly. "What?" something my grandmother used to say. She would string beans every fall, and my grandfather would help her, and he would always say, "String your life with mine and never part." I always thought it was just a silly saying, but now I understand it. Two separate strings, woven together into something stronger. Zelda felt tears prick her eyes. "String your life with mine and never part," she repeated. "I like that. It is exactly right." They stood there on the porch, holding each other, their son sleeping peacefully at their feet, beans waiting to be strung. It was an ordinary moment in an ordinary day, but to Zelda it felt like everything. This was what she had been searching for without knowing it, this sense of belonging, of being part of something bigger than herself, while still remaining wholly herself. The years passed, bringing both challenges and joys. Oliver grew into a bright, curious boy with his father's smile and his mother's stubborn determination. When he was 3, they had a daughter, Emma, who was quieter than her brother but just as strong-willed. Owen eventually became sheriff of Shoshone City when Sheriff Garrett retired, a position that came with more responsibility but also more respect. He used his influence to help Zelda establish a proper medical practice in town, a small office where she could treat patients 3 days a week while Owen watched the children. Their life was busy and sometimes chaotic, balancing work and family and the farm. But they made it work through constant communication, through being willing to adjust and compromise, through remembering why they had chosen each other in the first place. When Oliver was 6 and Emma was 3, they expanded the house, adding more rooms so the children could have their own spaces. Owen did most of the construction himself, with help from neighbors and friends, and Zelda watched him work with pride. "We are building something lasting," Owen said one evening as they surveyed the work. "A home, a family, a legacy. Our grandchildren will play in this house someday." "Our grandchildren. Let us get through raising these 2 first," Zelda said with a laugh, but she loved the idea of it, of their family continuing, growing, spreading out like the roots of a tree. Life in Idaho Territory changed around them. The territory grew, towns became cities, the wild lawlessness of the early days slowly giving way to civilization. But some things remained constant. Zelda's farm, passed down from her father, became a gathering place for family and friends. Owen's reputation as a fair and honest lawman made him respected throughout the region. They faced challenges, too. There were lean years when the crops failed, years when Owen was injured in the line of duty, years when Zelda was so tired from treating patients and raising children that she wondered if she could keep going. But they faced everything together, the way they had faced the Dalton gang all those years ago, with courage and determination and love. When Oliver was 10, he asked his parents how they had met. They were sitting on the porch, the same porch where it had all started, and Zelda looked at Owen with a smile. "Your father was bleeding," she said. "He collapsed in my doorway and bled all over my beans." "That is not very romantic, Ma," Oliver protested. "But it is true," Owen said. "And sometimes the most romantic stories are the true ones. I was running from bad men, hurt and scared, and your mother took me in. She saved my life, and then she let me stay and string beans with her, even though I was terrible at it." "You are still terrible at it," Zelda interjected. "True. But your mother is patient with me, and somewhere between the beans and the bullets we fell in love." "And then you got married?" Emma asked. "And then we got married, and then we had you too, and we lived happily ever after," Owen finished. "That is not how real life works," Oliver said seriously. "Teacher says there is no such thing as happily ever after." "Your teacher is wrong," Zelda said firmly. "Happily ever after does not mean everything is always perfect." It means you find someone you love and you build a life together and you face whatever comes as a team. That is what your father and I did, and that is what we are still doing. So we are living in a happily ever after right now? Emma asked. We are, Owen confirmed, pulling both children close. Right now, right here, this is our happily ever after. The children seemed satisfied with this answer and they ran off to play. Zelda leaned against Owen, watching her children run through the yard, and felt contentment settle over her like a warm blanket. You remember being afraid? Owen asked softly. When I first asked to court you, you were so scared of losing yourself. I remember. I was foolish. No, you were not. You were protecting something precious, your independence, your sense of self. I never wanted to take that from you. You did not. You enhanced it, made me more than I was alone. She turned to look at him. Thank you for being patient with me, for understanding what I needed. Thank you for taking a chance on a bleeding deputy with terrible bean-stringing skills. They laughed together, the easy laughter of people who knew each other completely and loved each other anyway. As the sun set over the Idaho landscape, painting the sky in shades of gold and red, Zelda thought about the string beans she had been preparing that fateful day. How such an ordinary task had been interrupted by something extraordinary. She thought about Owen's words, about stringing their lives together and never parting, and realized they had done exactly that. Two separate threads, woven together into something beautiful and strong and lasting. That was what a marriage should be, what their marriage was. Not one person sacrificing for another, but both people growing together, supporting each other, creating something bigger than the sum of their parts. Years continued to pass. Oliver grew into a fine young man who decided to study law, wanting to help people the way his father had. Emma became interested in medicine, spending hours with Zelda learning everything she could about healing. Watching their children find their own paths filled both Zelda and Owen with pride. When Oliver left for university back east, Zelda cried despite her best efforts. Owen held her that night and reminded her that this was what they had raised their children for, to become independent and capable and ready to face the world. I know, Zelda said through her tears, but I miss him already. So do I, but he will come back. This will always be his home, just like it is ours. And Oliver did come back, every summer and winter break, bringing stories of his studies and his life in the city. Emma eventually followed her brother east to study medicine formally, and Zelda could not have been prouder even as she missed her daughter terribly. With the children gone, the house felt too big and too quiet. But Zelda and Owen found themselves falling in love again in a new way, without the demands of parenting pulling at them constantly. They had time for each other again, for long conversations and lazy mornings, for remembering why they had chosen each other in the first place. Owen retired from being sheriff when he was 50, deciding it was time to let younger men take on the responsibility. He threw himself into farming full-time, and together he and Zelda made the property more productive than ever. I think I am finally getting good at this bean stringing, Owen announced one fall afternoon when they were preparing the harvest for drying. Zelda inspected his work critically. Well, you are better than you were 25 years ago. Not good, mind you, but better. 25 years. Has it really been that long? 25 years this November since we got married. 27 since you bled all over my porch. Owen set down his beans and pulled Zelda into his arms. Best 27 years of my life. Every single day with you has been a gift. Even the days I was angry at you for tracking mud through the house. Or the time I was so sick with fever you thought I might die. Or when Oliver broke his arm and we were both terrified. Even those days. Especially those days because we faced them together. He kissed her forehead. I love you, Zelda. I loved you when I barely knew you, and I love you more now that I know everything. Every stubborn, brilliant, beautiful part of you. I love you too. Always have, always will. When Oliver came home that Christmas, he brought a surprise with him. A young woman named Sarah who he introduced as his fiancée. Zelda watched her son with this woman, saw the way he looked at her, the way he listened when she spoke, the respect and love between them, and recognized what she saw. "He loves her the way you love me," Owen said quietly as they watched the young couple walk through the snowy yard. "He does. He chose well. We taught him well, taught him what a real partnership looks like." The wedding was the following summer, held on the farm where Oliver had grown up. Zelda cried through the whole ceremony, holding Owen's hand tight. When Oliver said his vows, promising to love and cherish Sarah, to be her partner and equal, Zelda heard echoes of the promises she and Owen had made to each other all those years ago. Emma came home for the wedding too, bringing with her a young doctor she had been studying with. His name was Thomas, and within a year, Emma and Thomas were engaged as well. "Both our children, married and starting their own lives," Zelda said the night after Emma's wedding, which they held at the farm again. "When did we get old enough for this? We are not old. We are experienced." Owen pulled her close. "And we still have each other. Still have this place, this life we built. Our children may be grown, but our story is not over yet." And he was right. Oliver and Sarah settled in Boise, where Oliver practiced law, but they visited often, and within 2 years presented Zelda and Owen with their first grandchild, a boy named William. Emma and Thomas opened a medical practice together in Silver City, and soon after had a daughter they named Zelda, after her grandmother. Being grandparents brought a new joy to their lives. When the grandchildren visited, the old farmhouse rang with laughter and noise again. Owen proved to be a patient and playful grandfather, while Zelda delighted in teaching her grandchildren all the things she had taught their parents. "Look at us," Owen said one evening as they watched little William and Zelda play in the yard. "Grandparents, never thought I would make it this far." "Why? Because of the dangerous job?" "No. Because before I met you, I did not think I would ever have this. A family, a real home, roots that go deep. I was just drifting, and then I stumbled bleeding onto your porch, and you changed everything." "We changed everything together," Zelda corrected. "I was just as lost as you. I just did not know it yet. I thought being alone made me strong, but you showed me that letting someone in can make you stronger." They grew older together, their hair turning gray, their bodies slowing down. But their love remained constant, deepening with every passing year. They celebrated their 30th anniversary, then their 40th, surrounded by children and grandchildren and even a few great-grandchildren. The farmhouse that Zelda's father had built and that she and Owen had expanded became a gathering place for the whole family. Every summer there was a reunion, every winter a Christmas celebration. The walls held pictures and memories, layers of life lived fully and well. When Zelda was 72, she finally closed her medical practice. Her hands were too stiff with arthritis to do the delicate work anymore, and Emma had taken over most of her patients anyway. It was bittersweet, letting go of work that had defined so much of her life, but Owen was there to remind her that she had helped so many people over the years, that her legacy would continue through Emma. "You saved my life twice," Owen said. "Once when you treated my wound, and once when you agreed to marry me. Everything good in my life traces back to you." "That is not true. You made your own choices, did your own work. But you made it possible. You believed in me, supported me, loved me even when I was difficult. That is what made everything else possible." They spent more time together in those final years, just the two of them in the house that held so many memories. Sometimes they would sit on the porch where it had all begun, stringing beans or just watching the sunset, and talk about their life together. If you could go back and do it all again, would you change anything? Zelda asked one evening. Owen considered this seriously. Maybe I would have kissed you sooner, been braver about telling you I loved you from the start. But no, I would not change anything important. Every moment, good and bad, brought us here, and here is exactly where I want to be. String your life with mine and never part, Zelda said softly. String your life with mine and never part, Owen echoed. That is still true, you know. After all these years, I cannot imagine my life without you in it. You will not have to. We will be together until the end and whatever comes after. They were both 83 when Owen had a stroke. It happened suddenly one morning as he was feeding the chickens. Zelda found him collapsed in the yard, and her medical training took over, even as her heart was breaking. She got him inside, sent for Emma and Thomas, and stayed by his side. Owen recovered somewhat, but he was never quite the same. His left side was weak, his speech sometimes slurred, but his mind was still sharp and his love for Zelda never wavered. I am sorry, he said one night, frustrated by his limitations. You should not have to take care of me like this. Hush, Zelda said firmly. You took care of me through 2 pregnancies, through illnesses, through every hard time we faced. This is just my turn to take care of you. We are partners, remember, in sickness and in health. I remember everything, every moment with you. They had 6 more years together after Owen's stroke. 6 years of a slower, quieter life, but no less filled with love. Their children and grandchildren visited often, and Owen delighted in holding his great-grandchildren, telling them stories about the old days. One spring morning, when the air was warm and sweet with the smell of new growth, Owen did not wake up. Zelda knew immediately, even before she reached over to touch him. He looked peaceful, like he was simply sleeping, and she sat with him for a long time, holding his hand, saying all the things she needed to say. Thank you, she whispered. Thank you for loving me, for building this life with me, for every day we had together. String your life with mine and never part. We kept that promise, did we not? We strung our lives together and we never parted, not really, and we never will. The funeral was attended by what seemed like half of Idaho. Owen had been respected and loved, and people came from all over to pay their respects. But for Zelda, the most meaningful moment was when they buried him on the farm, under the old oak tree where they had often sat together. After he was gone, Zelda moved through her grief slowly. She stayed on the farm, unable to imagine being anywhere else. Emma wanted her to move to Silver City to live with her and Thomas, but Zelda refused. This is where I belong, she said. Where we belong together. I am not leaving. She lived another 7 years after Owen died. 7 years of memories and quiet days, of visits from family, of tending the garden and stringing beans and remembering. She was 90 when she died peacefully in her sleep, in the bed she had shared with Owen for so many years. They buried her next to Owen, under the oak tree, and the whole family gathered for the service. Oliver spoke about his parents' love, about the example they had set, about how their partnership had been built on mutual respect and genuine affection. They showed us what it means to truly love someone, Oliver said. Not just in the easy times, but in the hard times too. They strung their lives together and never parted, and even death could not break that bond. They are together now, the way they always were, the way they always will be. The farm stayed in the family, passed down through the generations. The house where Zelda had taken in a wounded deputy and found love was preserved, maintained, cherished. And every summer, when the beans were ready for drying, Someone would sit on that old porch and string beans, remembering the story of Zelda and Owen, remembering that love can be found in the most unexpected moments, that two separate threads can be woven into something beautiful and lasting. In the family, there became a tradition. When someone got married, they would be given a string of dried beans from the farm, a reminder of what real love looks like. And they would be told the story of how it all started, with a woman stringing beans and a man bleeding on her doorstep, and how they built a life together that lasted long after they were gone. The string beans became a symbol, passed down through the generations. String your life with mine and never part. It became the family motto, a reminder that true partnership means supporting each other, respecting each other, growing together while remaining fully yourselves. And on summer evenings, when the descendants of Zelda and Owen gathered on that old porch, they would look out over the land that had witnessed so much love, so much life, and they would know that some stories never end. Some loves are so strong they echo through the generations, inspiring and guiding long after the lovers themselves are gone. Zelda and Owen's love story became legend in the family, told and retold, with each telling adding new layers, new meaning. But at its heart, the story was always the same. Two people who found each other against all odds, who chose each other every day, who built something lasting through commitment and courage and, above all, love. The old farmhouse still stands, a monument to that love. And sometimes, on quiet evenings when the wind rustles through the oak trees, you can almost hear them, Zelda and Owen, laughing together on the porch, stringing beans, their lives woven together forever, never to part.